welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And just as promised, here we have it. We have got Evan and Stephen Strong with us. You'll be able to see Evan in just a moment when I go to the bigger screen. But guys, it's great to have you back with us. It really is. I was telling the audience before the show, you've got another conference coming up this weekend. We were taking a little listen to a video you'd put out some time ago about magical stones and rocks. And I was telling Scotty Lopez this is going to blow his mind. So it's great to have both of you back on the show. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Stephen. Where are we going today, man?
Well, we're going to go into some rocks, and we need to go back, what is it, about 10 years, don't we, Evan?
Yeah, it'd be coming on to that.
Yeah, we're out on the field at the carry-on glyphs, which we haven't done yet, but we'll get round to it. But while we were there, we got a phone call from a lady I had never met called Ros Mulder, and she said she had this amazing rock. She wanted to show us, and she also said she had some silkons for Michael Tellinger. Well, if you know Michael, when you say the word silkons, you've got him, haven't you, Evan? He's there. So anyway, while we're in the bush there, she sent us a picture of this rock, which I'll show you in a sec. And Michael Tellinger was absolutely blown away by it because we hadn't done any sort of carry rocks or any type of rocks.
Not really, no. That wasn't really our specialty.
No, we were doing sites as such, and these little tiny little rocks with marks on them, which wasn't part of our stuff. And he said to us at the time, "My God, they were more amazing than the Blombos rocks." And I'm thinking, I don't know what he's talking about.
I think you looked at me and went, Blombos rocks?
Yeah, I looked at you first.
Blombos rocks.
So we nodded our head in agreement. We thought, I'm not going to look like an idiot. We'll be right. Anyway, lo and behold, we finished looking at carry on the glyphs there, and we come back out in the car park, and this lady turns up and she shows us this rock. And she says to Michael, "These are more amazing than the Blombos rocks." I thought, oh my God, am I the only person apart from Evan that doesn't know who they are? And I thought, oh, bugger it, I'm not going to keep up the facade of knowing what I'm talking about. And I asked Michael, what the hell are you guys talking about? What are Blombos rocks? Is that some sort of new gravel or something? And it turned out it's a rock with markings on them, just lines like that. About 75,000 years, found in South Africa, and considered the beginning of art for Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
So anyway, here we go, and I'm going to actually hold it up to you now. There's 4 sides on this. Here's the first side here, and I'll try and hold it as close as I can.
Back a bit.
Yep, I can see the lines on it there, yep.
And now I'll turn it around the other side, and you'll see more lines on it there. God, I don't know how to do this really well.
That's the kind of lines it's the kind of lines you'd expect to find etched into plaster, not into rock.
Yeah, well, that's the trick with this, mate. And when I looked at it, and she gave it to us, and she said, "Do you want to keep it?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And the story was this, that when she was building a house at Carryong on the very top of a plateau, they dug down 1.5 meters, and then they brought out this fill, and right at the top of it was this rock. And there were about 8 people there at the time. They've all signed stat decks, and they all saw it, so this is not a make-believe story, and they can't say that this was made up. Now, the rock was found at least 1 meter beneath the surface, which means it was deposited there over 10,000 years ago, no less than that. But what's really interesting, when I hold this rock up, and I'll try to, it's got sides on it that's been marked out. There's a side on this side which has got tiny little lines on it that joins up to the other 2 sides perfectly. Amazing things going on there. But it's not sandstone. Now, Carryong and the whole of that region is all sandstone, nothing.
Okay, now I've lost people's cameras. Here we go, we're back on. Bear with us, everyone. We got a bit of a Skype glitch there. We'll add the guys back in, and then we'll be good to go. Oh, I tell you, Scotty, I told you it's deep info. There we go. There's the guys back now. Hopefully
So sorry about that. I was trying to get you a picture of that rock, and it booted us out of the call as soon as I shared it.
Something went weird here as well. Yep.
Yeah, everything kind of crashed. So don't worry about it. It's fine.
I always share pictures.
We usually were all right. I've got one picture here I can show people. If I come down
Well, I'll continue before Evan kicks me off again.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to show you.
All right, okay, there's the rock. So now, what threw me straight away and threw Michael are a couple of things. Number one, look at the colour of the rock underneath. Oh, it just went.
It's okay. I've got it back up. Yeah, there it is.
You'll notice that on top you've got a uniformly brown colour except for one side. On one side, it's not brown. It changes and becomes multicoloured, and is two colours, a light brown and a dark brown. All other sides are dark brown. Now, what threw me straight away when I looked at it, Michael said the same thing, is this is a coat. The rock underneath is a completely different colour. And by the way, this is the case with all of the star rocks. They have a coat on top. And secondly, it wasn't chiselled. It was actually cut. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The original people of Australia, until Captain Cook and it came, and the invasion fleet came soon after, only had, according to the experts, a stick, stone and bone technology and a campfire. That is the full gamut of the tools they have to create things. This was not created by any arrangement of stick, stone and bone, and that was what interested me the most. Now, further on, we showed this rock. At that stage, we thought it was just a rock. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was just a rock because the end of this story is it's not just a rock, but we've got to get there roundabout way. We showed this to a professor of a university, and he was a professor of geology.
So we lovingly call him Professor X.
Yeah, we call him Professor X.
I like that.
He doesn't want his name up because if his name is near us, he gets kicked out of every institution in Australia. So he's Professor X, and at this stage, we weren't told about the powers of the rock, and he held it for a while. And he looked at it and he said, this is the greatest geological mystery of the planet. I can tell you we contacted a lovely group of people that are really into open science and investigation called the Smithsonian. And they gave us two contacts back saying, number one, it's unique in the world, and number two, they would love to have it, to put it in a box and go down to level 4 and never see it again.
I'm thinking of that last scene of Raiders in the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones, the warehouse.
I'm thinking it'll be filed right under the giants and the Nephilim that they've got hidden away in
yes,
there.
It'll be right next to them all at the same spot. Yeah. So we actually respectfully refused the invitation. So there we are. We had a rock. We had a rock and we thought, well, this is an interesting rock because the technology is quite amazing. But then the rock grew. Two parts to it. Number one, after some time, Kano rang me, who's my main elder, and he actually told us, he said, where is that rock? Well, I said, it's in the house. I said, we don't want it outside where people can find it. He said, leave it in there, it's going to kill you, or get it out. Okay, right, we'll move it out. So we were told something. Now, Kano is probably the greatest custodian of old way knowledge there is in this country. But even coming from him, I'm thinking, it's just a bloody rock, mate. Now I can put it where I want. It ain't going to hurt anyone. Well, that's what we thought. So lo and behold, what happens next is that as we start to collect more rocks, and after I finish talking about this one, I'll just show you some of the others as we go through, but I want to give you a feel for one of them. My wife, who's an artist, decided she would actually paint it. And she would paint this rock and as a gift to Roz, who gave it to us and didn't ask any money. And she was then sending us other rocks she bought on the open market where she spent her own money, then sent it to us, but didn't ask for any money in return and refused to take any. So we had to do something to thank her. So I'm about 4 rooms away. And all of a sudden, I just got this premonition something was wrong. And I yelled out at the same time my wife yelled out. And she yelled out and called me, and I said, have you touched the rocks? And she yelled out, yes. So I went and saw what was going on. And I remember asking her later about the intensity of the pain that she felt when she touched this rock, just to get a better angle. And she's my wife, and we're looking after the damn thing. You'd think I'd look after her. And I said, what would you rate the pain between 1, which is a pinch, and 10, which is stabbed in the back? And she said it was an 8. And she said it was sharp and twisted. And from the time she touched that rock, there was a pain in her hand and it was running up her arm. And then I realized what Kano was talking about. But luckily, have you got it, Evan? Can you go and get it? We had with us a healing rock. And I won't go into details today, but I do talk about this more in the conference we're doing. And I grabbed that healing rock and then I put it on my wife's arm. Here it is here. I'll just hold it to you now. Thank you, Evan. Left hand, it's the only one you can touch. It's this one here. And if I hold it on the other side like this, you'll see where the palm rests there when you hold it. It's a left-hand rock, which means it's a female rock. I rubbed it against her arm and then smoked her, and the pain went.
So Scott said it reminds him of the Dashka stone. So that's the Dashka
Yeah,
stone.
I can see that, but there's more to this stone, and this is where it gets interesting. Yes, I can see similarities to that. But number one, when you look very carefully here, what actually grabbed the attention of the geologist was not the markings. It was what I'm going to hold up now at the back there, where I'm pointing there.
Okay, and for the radio audience, it's like a depression kind of in the rock, right?
And there's something in there that's been filled in there. It's actually an infill. What have you done, Evan?
Nothing.
Oh, good. Oh, God, the screen's gone crazy. He's just pressing buttons and freaking me out.
It's because Skype have added a new...
into the rock.
Skype have done an update, guys. That's why it's looking all different. That's probably why when you tried to share something before, it kind of crashed it. There's been a big, big update.
Always wanting to update, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, so what we've got on this side is what he calls an infill. And there is an infill on this side too, which you won't be able to see, but we show it more on the other occasion. On that, there's metal inside it. And he said, that's wrong. He said, what sort of glue holds other rock inside a rock for over 10,000 years? Then we looked further and we found on the top side there are what we call imprints, where it's been pressed down here, but it didn't cut the surface.
Yep.
And he said that needs 4,000 degrees Celsius to break down that rock, to cut into it, but not burn the surface and hold it intact. He said, I can't believe what I'm looking at here, nor could the Smithsonian. So we started to realize then, number one, we had a rock that broke every rule about the technology of what exists in this country. But number two, there were hints here of something deeper. The question was, what was actually hurting my wife so much that there's, whoever might be able to put it up.
I'll send it to you through Messenger so it won't crash.
No problem, yeah.
You'll see there are 7 imprints that have been pushed into the rock. Now, you can't do this around a campfire with a bone. It's that simple. And these cut lines, and I'm thinking, well, what have they put on the surface? There's it. Evan's got the picture up. You may not see it, but believe me, it's there.
They're both on your Facebook Messenger.
So we're looking at technology where they're laying a surface, and we know what that surface is. The elders have told me. It is chert and resin. It's been melted and layered on top. But when you look at the layers on these rocks, it's smooth, exactly the same. There's the imprints there now. Now, this sort of stuff I'm seeing on this rock, I'm thinking, no campfire. This is wrong. And secondly, the markings on the rock do not remind me of any tribal markings anywhere in this country. So we begin a journey into something that just doesn't make any sense. Now, what we're going to do in our presentation is we're going to do the science, the archaeology and the history of these rocks, but we're also going to throw in the mystical part of the story that goes with them. But what I'd like to do now is there's a lot more that can be said about this rock. I will give you one other part of the story with this rock, which I find quite amazing. There are 2 sides that have patterns on there. And yes, I was shown another picture of another set of patterns that don't look quite the same, but have similarities. But I can tell you one thing about the Blombos rock, and that rock there, I nearly saw its name but missed it, that is not shared with this rock. And Roz is a person who did this. What it looks like, to an extent when you hold it up, is it looks a bit like, sort of like street map, with lines going across and stuff like this. And yes, we have got someone who's measured all the angles on there and found out, he's marked all the angles out and found that these angles were found on 3 other rocks. One was in Bosnia, Dr.
Dr.
Sam
Sam
sent that to us.
yeah.
One was in Calgary and one was in Germany. And they had 46 angles on them, and 44 were found on this rock. So that's an amazing story in itself, which we'll go into more detail because we believe this is a language. But what is even more amazing, and we've never put this in our book, and we only show it because we like to keep some things, don't we?
We do. We like to tease.
Is that Roz then got, don't ask me why, because I don't know, got the original map of Washington, D.C., the capital city. And she superimposed that map on top of the two sides of this rock, and it is a perfect fit. Now, I don't know what it means. I have no idea why that's happened, but I can tell you, and we have got film, and we'll put it up on the day. We can't put it up today. It's a little teaser here. She put it on top and superimposed it, and every street map line on Washington sits perfectly on top of the rock, and there's nothing underneath. Now, what that all means, I don't know, but what it started to show us was this rock has a lot more to it than just the fact that it's a rock. Now, further on, now I can give you some more depth to the story of this rock. Further on, about 3 years, maybe 4 years after we had the rock, Kano rang me on the phone. Now, Kano's my elder, and as Evan knows, when Kano rings you on the phone, you're normally in deep trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, there's usually someone will phone you on his behalf to say, can you phone him?
Yeah.
But if he phones you directly,
you are
the middle person isn't there, that's an issue.
That happened a couple of times, and it's not a good thing to happen to anyone. When he rang, I thought, oh, my God, what have I done wrong? He said, that rock. I said, Kano, I've moved it. It's outside. It's not in the house. I said, no, it's not what I'm talking about. I said, he said, we've decided to tell you the story that goes with this rock. And this is where you start to get an understanding of the importance of this rock. He said, this is a story about a fight between Goanna and the eagle and the crow. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. He said, but the Goanna came from the stars because the Goanna in original mythology represents wisdom. The dreaming serpent creates the land, but the Goanna gives us wisdom. And they came in a ship. And of course, obviously, it's the Pleiades, and he mentioned that. And they were not welcomed by us, the original people. And the eagle and the crow, which are our totems, and that's Akano's totem, fought against the Goanna and would not let them land. Then finally, the crow realized that the Pleiadians must come, they're part of our history, joined with the Goanna and defeated the eagle. And then what happened was when they landed, the eagle gave the Goanna his claws. And those claws were then taken. Yeah, I've seen that one, yeah.
The Roswell stone, yeah.
Yeah. Those claws were then taken and they scratched their laws onto this rock. And he said the Christians took that story and turned it into the tablet was inscribed. Well, I think it was fire, wasn't it? Inscribed with fire. He said this is where that story comes from. This is the very first rock that has the wisdom of those from above. So then, ladies and gentlemen, we started to realize the importance of this particular rock. Now, what I am going to do next is, you've seen this one, I'm going to show you some of the other rocks that have come in since, because some people could say this first rock, which, by the way, is a male rock, it's held with the thumb along this ridge here. Okay, now the second rock we've got, which is the female rock, is held in the left hand, and I'll hold it up now. There's one part of it, here's the back of it, and you'll see on that, oh, it's the wrong way around,
so is this where you start getting problems, guys? Like if you start messing with stones, like if it's a woman's stone instead of a fella stone?
Yes, it is. It's a big problem because if males, I'm going to tell the story about a female that held a male rock, and I'm going to tell about the opposite. I'm in an unusual and unique situation, according to the elders. I'm the only person who can hold them both, and they won't turn on me. Now, I've got to make the point, they have attacked me quite a few times for breaking protocol.
They've taught you a few lessons.
They've thrown me down cliffs, they've tripped me a few times, they've done quite a few things, and we talk about some of those in the show, but I'm going to talk about one today. Here's the back side of it there, and what you will also find when you go through there, on one side, it's blank, and it's got two colors on it, which is exactly the same as this one. This is the male, this is the female. They always stay together. Now, this one has 4 languages on it. It's got the letter A, which I'm holding up now, and it's been beautifully cut into it. Then on the side here, we've got dot languages. We've also got imprints, and we've got a sort of a Morse code effect there. These are all stories about, as Uncle Marbach calls them, they are star rocks. Again, it's cut, and it's not been chiseled. And you'll find if you look inside this one, we'll show you on the day, where that line is there is a very fine razor cut that runs all the way along that marking there. That has got to be the finest blade possible that can cut into rocks, way past the technology we've got today. So that's the female rock. I'm going to show you a third one, because we're doing this very quickly, because I just want to give you a feel for what we've got. Yes, Evan's going to send across a picture now, and you'll see the cut mark.
But yeah, Scott, you're correct. The Roswell stone coating looks very similar to the coating of these rocks. Yeah, it's that same kind of shirt.
Well, remember, they are called star rocks. All of these rocks, I'll hold up another one now, and that's got about 120 lines on them, and every line is perfectly straight. Original people do not do straight up. Now, I've got to tell you, these rocks were made a long, long time ago. And I'm talking tens of thousands of years, at a time when original people used this technology. And that is why all the motifs, and you'll see the one that's just been put up, you'll see the cut line inside it, all of the motifs here are not original motifs of today. You cannot associate these rocks with any tribal group because it doesn't have their symbols on there. And secondly, it doesn't have their technology. We are going back to the times of Lemuria and Atlantis, when original people embraced this technology because it's everywhere. We have hundreds of rocks like these, and I'm just holding them up as we go along. Here's another one I'm going to show you now, which is actually, when you look at it like this, it's been cut. It's a meteor. Yep. Now, when I'll show you the side here, it's been completely marked again and all in straight lines again. Now, I've got to make the point. The Star Rocks language normally has straight lines with intersection points, and they make angles. And those angles become a language, which we talk about in a lot more detail on our conference again. But what want you to think about now, ladies and gentlemen, is how do you cut a meteor so it's 180 degrees flat on that side like that? How do you do that? I can tell you now, you can't throw it on the campfire and chuck it on another rock and come up with this. Now, what you'll find on this is there's markings on other sides too. It is actually a 50-50 spread between natural surface like that and then parts have been cut away. And our understanding, this is a story about the beginning of life on this planet. And there's a point in here on this side here, which we show in more detail. There's a triangle that's cut into it. And we believe a spear was thrown to the earth that had amoeba, germs, and all the things that make up life. And it was thrown from the Pleiades and hit at Uluru. Now, Uluru has got a cap on the top, and it's a spear point that goes down about, what, 6 miles, doesn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that we believe was the beginning of life, and this is a story about that happening. Now, again, the technology of these rocks really does ask questions that can't be answered in under normal conditions. The next one I'm going to show you is this rock here. Right. And it's been cut and then shaped. And can you see that lipping on the top there? Now, what that's about, very simply, I'll hold it sideways, is this. You can see the colour of the rock underneath. It's white. It's been coated. There's no denying that. But what they've done, and here's the degree of technology that's beyond us, it was warmed up a second time up the top there, so I can put my thumb there, and then the stuff dribbled down the side, but that wasn't warm, like a candle. It was actually just caught on that side on the top there and then formed again and reformed, which meant the heat was localized to one point there. And just above it is a star map, Corona Australis, and it's perfectly in alignment with that. And you know what's interesting about Corona Australis? You can't see it with the naked eye. And here it is on this map. And on this side, of course, you've got the Pleiades. On this side, you've got, I think, Southern Cross underneath. It's a star map.
Hold that
It's a
thought,
star.
guys. Hold that thought. We're going to be back in 3 short minutes. Don't go anywhere. Evan and Stephen Strong. We got Scotty Lopez. I've got all of your images that you sent during the break, guys. You'll probably need to unmute yourself. You're good to go.
Yep.
So I'm going to hand it back to you, Stephen. Where do you want to go next, man?
Okay, we'll do a couple more. Then I want to go to the mystical side of this equation because it's very important to understand why we want to do that. The next one we're going to look at, which is something completely different, is a rock that doesn't have cuts. It's different. It has patterns. When I turn this around each side, you'll find there are different patterns there. They're not the same. And what's fascinating about this rock, and I'll just hold it like this for a sec, at one end you've got a triangle. At the other end you have a triangle, not natural, but that triangle is 5 mil by 5 mil by 5 mil wider and longer than this one. This was identical. And what's happened is it's been held so often, this whole section is rubbed away, and you can even see where the finger rested there and has rubbed in against it. This has been used again and again and again. Now, I've got to make a really important point about these rocks. They are symbiotic. They actually work with humans. When they're placed inside your hand, they store the DNA of the people who've held it before. It transfers into you. It's very much like Lord of the Rings, the stuff about holding the rocks and it takes over holding the rings. It's the same thing with the rocks, no different. Now, I could keep doing rocks like this, and what you'll notice is there's nothing in Australia today that relates to what we're seeing on this particular rock. I mean, the patterns on this are quite ridiculous. Some of them are raised. So in this occasion, what they've done this time is not cut it, but then built it and made, there's a picture of one there now, then created these different patterns. And then you've got sharp lines cut through it. These rocks have technology, as I said, that we are challenged to do today, which means the whole of our history about what we think happened in the past, we're living in caves dribbling, I'm afraid that's just all rubbish. It's completely different because these rocks are tens of thousands of years old, but have technology that is around today and has been around for the last 100 years. So how did this happen?
And all around the world too.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
You know, it's quite interesting because you hear about people going to the pyramids and things, and I've had one guest on before who talked about when she touched the pyramid, it was like they got a download, like almost the memory from the rock was transferred, you know? So this isn't new language to me. This is fascinating.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to a story with Evan and I involved in a download that was quite fascinating. When I'm going to get to that, you know which one it is, don't you, Evan? But I'll very quickly just go through a couple more to show you different aspects of this. Now, let's look at a non-star rock. This one is not a star rock, and I'll hold it up now. Now, what it is a core sample, and it's perfectly round. Now, we had a geologist, I think it was from Germany, that looked at this, didn't he, Evan?
Yeah, he did.
He said, I've never seen a core sample like this today. Now, see the cuts on that line? See how they're perfectly straight again? That tells me the business, it's star business again. And they're all the way around in different positions.
Yep.
Now, how do you do this sitting around the campfire? It's a commonality. And if you look at this nice round shape here, let me give you something completely different now. Here's one that's been cut. And this one I'll hold up like this. And it's been cut sharp, really sharp. The edges there, look at that. Now that's been cut in a different way. This one was found at a place where there are literally thousands of rocks like this. And the elder picked up one and threw it to me and said, take this one away and show the mob out there what we can really do. Now, this one's been broken, as you can see at the top there, but this is a very hard rock. How did they cut it like this? And it was sitting in the mud like that. And I can tell you the other sides would have been equally as sharp, but they've worn away.
Now Stephen, you mentioned the elders there, right? And I believe that there's going to be an original speaker coming on the next conference because these stones, they really are important for the times that we've spoke about before. The separation, the river going into, the path separating. So this is like stuff that the elders have said it's time for everyone to know, right?
Yes, it is, and we've got to remember these. I'll hold up just one more. Here's another silicon to show you again the variety of stuff we've got there. Now, don't tell me this is a natural rock, please, because I'd have to walk out of the room.
No.
And right up the bottom there, you'll notice what it's done. If you look on the far side there, there's all these lines that have been cut into it again. Cut. There's no change in this. They've been cut all the way around.
That to me is a projectile. That looks like a proper projectile more than a rock, you know?
Oh, it's a silicon. It's a full-on silicon. It's held. This thumb goes there. It's held. Oh, sorry. Yep. It's held like that, and it sits in the palm of your hand. Wow. Now, let's leave that for a moment. We could do this for an hour and a half. I've only just brought in 10 rocks here. We have hundreds of rocks like this. There's no end to it. But you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, they have powers, and in the time we've got left, because our presentation was 50%, here's the science, here's the technology. Don't fight with me, boys and girls. This is legitimate. Then we have to talk about the part that the boys and girls will fight with, won't they, Evan? Yep. I'm going to give you 2 examples of what these rocks are capable of. And I want to start with the fact we have healing rocks. I showed you one before, this beautiful white rock, and I've used it quite a few times. It has a 100% healing record. Then we have killing rocks. And I can tell you, we are in the process of putting all these rocks onto sacred country, thousands of k's from here. We're giving them all away. People have got to understand that. We have never picked up one rock. They've all been bought or given to us. And we took them on the condition that one day they go back on country. But there are some rocks they won't take. And I want to talk about the rocks that no blackfellas in this country want to take, that we get to keep. Now, I'm going to start with Evan. One day, Evan was decided to ban an elder. Didn't you, Evan?
Yeah.
What reason could you have for doing that?
He was abusing and threatening people in my Facebook group.
Was he swearing at them?
Yes. Threatening to hurt them.
And you kicked him off?
Yeah, generally, as I would anyone that would do that.
We do have rules. When you threaten to kill people or swear at them, we throw you off. In fact, we throw you off if you're just rude to people.
Threatening like death, it tends to do it. Yeah.
Oh, but this guy's different because he could do it. Let me tell you what happened. So Evan kicked him off, didn't he?
I did, yeah.
And what did he say he was going to do to you?
What was it? It was curse me, and if I was to touch an original artifact, I would die.
Right.
And get really sick and die. And
now, we've been cursed before. I've got to make this point. I've actually been on death's door twice because of different curses. So I was getting pretty over this. And when I came home, Evan had told us about this. And then he also...
don't forget what happened is I was hanging out the washing going, oh, here we go again. I've been cursed again. I'm actually ahead of Steve. I think I've got one more than you.
You've got 9 curses. I've got 8.
You've been thrown to the brink of death
twice.
Yeah,
my curses were better. Yeah, my curses are better than yours.
Yeah. So I might have the quantity, you've got the quality. Anyway, so I'm hanging out the washing, going, just lamenting. Here we go again. All I was doing was trying to keep a peaceful group. I look up into the sky, and there's 2 hawks that had linked talons, and were kind of acrobating through the sky, like coming right down towards me. And at the last minute, just before they're about to smack into me in my head, they peeled off and flew away.
Now, that's a sign from Kano, because Kano does the hawks and eagles. So we had the sign, didn't we?
Yep.
And by the way, Evan, what were the killing rocks telling you, asking you to do? Because the killing rocks like him. They talked to him a lot. What did they say?
We'll help.
Yeah.
We'll sort this out. 10 minutes, done.
Done. Now, they've done this before. They've offered this before. We've been cursed. And I've said, no, we're not fighting these people. Yeah. So when I get home, he's crook. He's crook. And I thought, oh, right, here we go again. And he was quite crook. And I said...
But you knew as soon as you walked in the door, something's wrong.
Yeah, I said, what's happened? I've been cursed. And I could see he was crook. And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. He's one in front again. I thought it caught up. Yeah. Anyway, next thing that happens is I go and play tennis. And what then happens is, that's what I contacted him, didn't I? Yeah, I contacted him. He said, "Well, look, just calm down, man. What are you doing here? This is ridiculous. Stop this." And he turned around and cursed me. I thought, "Oh, give me a break." So I go and play tennis that night, and I'm playing a guy I should beat about 6-love. And I'd won the first, I think, 12 points in a row, and I forfeited. I couldn't stand on the court. I was nearly dead on the court, and I felt just like I did before. I'm driving home, forfeiting a match, thinking, I'm done with these curses. And we decided we'd take the offer. We have rocks that can kill. I can tell you that now. I haven't got a chance to explain. We saw what they could do before. They have thrown people over on the ground because they didn't like them, haven't they? Yeah. They've done all that sort of crap. We knew that, but we weren't sure what they could do. So when I came home, Evan's crook, I'm crook, and we know who's made us sick. So what happened was, in the morning, you contacted him through, what's that machine where you press buttons and it goes in? What's it called, that one?
Facebook.
Yeah, what was that? Would you contact him through? Yeah. Contacted him through Facebook and said,
"How postmodern to be cursed through Facebook."
Yes, I know, very modern, isn't it? See, we go with the flow. And I said to him, mate, I said, I know you've told us you're going to kill both of us, and you've said that if either of us touch another rock or anything, we'll die. Well, I've got good news and bad news. I said the good news is I'm going out the back, and I'm putting 3 killing rocks in formation, and I know their formation. I know them, and they hate me because once they played up, and I turned them off for a month because I can turn them off for good. If I put them in a special formation, they can't function. And I said, I'm going to put him in formation. Now, the good news is I'll probably be dead, and then you'll be fine. But the bad news is if I come back, I'm alive, and you're dead. So I put him in formation, and I came back, and I said to Evan, all right, I'm going to tell him they're in formation. He's got 5-10 minutes. And you said, no, wait a while. He may not be seeing it, didn't you? Mm. So we told him, they're in formation now, mate. You've got to stop the curse. 3 minutes later, he writes back on Facebook, is it?
Yeah. Now, keeping in mind, all his messages were pretty self-righteous and pretty poetic.
Oh, yeah.
Beforehand.
Oh, God,
all of a sudden, the style of language had changed.
Changed completely. Turn them off, turn them off, turn them off. I've stopped the curse, I've stopped the curse. And then he finishes with, do you remember this? I'm going to kill your wife tomorrow. And I said, mate, I wrote back and said, that's like I'm not racist, but the rocks are staying in formation. And I said, I know what they can do. You have half an hour or you will be dead. 3 minutes later, he writes back again. I've called off the curse. Please, please, please undo the rocks. So we actually did that. I undid the rocks. Then he wrote back to us and said, I'm feeling better now. Leave me alone. I thought, leave me alone? For Christ's sake, you tried to kill us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to explain to you, and I'm leading up to something with this, is these rocks have absorbed the people who've used them. Now, nearly all of our rocks have within them the potential to kill, don't they? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Even this one here, Ross's Rock 1, could have killed my wife. I've had other people tell me that rock, that same rock, we had a person that came, was supposed to be quite mystical, said throw it in the sea. All of these rocks are a mixed bag because they are us. And unfortunately, Kev, as much as you might be shocked to hear this, I don't believe there have ever been perfectly massive amounts of perfectly brilliant, perfect human beings on this planet ever. We are a mixture of good and evil. All of us have our demons. These rocks have their demons and angels also. And what they can do is each way. Now, what I'm leading up to is I took these rocks to Uluru on the 21st of December. And some of these rocks I took to Uluru the day before, about 6 of them, and I laid them on the rock at Uluru because we were doing ceremony with them the next day and prepared them for this. Now, what these rocks are now going to do, and that's what we're leading up to, and this is why we're doing a couple of presentations, is this. I've been told by the rocks to make the following offer. We are in the process and we're having problems, as many problems as we had with the prophecy, isn't it, Evan? It's just, we're not even sure the rocks, look, the place has been given to us. We've got buildings there to store them on there. It's been landscaped, the whole thing, but it could still be stopped at this moment. It can still be stopped, and I can't even go into the reasons why they're so massive. It's like the prophecy. But what they will do is when they're laid in formation, because they will not be sitting behind glass cases, they'll be laid on the ground. They're going to be laid on wood and then picked up each night and locked inside. They'll lay in formation forever. People then can sit between them and sit inside the circles for 10 minutes. What they are guaranteeing is the people who do this, particularly because of the times we're in, because there's so much negativity and chaos and fear in the air, it will clean their souls. It'll embolden their resolve and make them prepared for the change and get them on the right track. But there is a proviso. What the rocks have told me is this: for those who are ready for this information, this wisdom, it will be given to them freely. For those who aren't, nothing will be given to them. And when they're finished, because we're going to set it up in a museum and there'll be a keeping place, and there'll be original people working there and they've got to be paid for that, we charge $10 for 10 minutes sitting beside the rocks, inside them. If they come up and say nothing happens, we gladly refund the money. And we say to that person, there are things you need to address before you can come and do this. If they are successful, they have to wait 2 hours before they can sit inside the other circle. And if they wish to come back, they have to wait 2 days before they can come back again. What the rocks are guaranteeing is that the people who sit inside these circles will get something if they are deserving of it. And it will change their life. Now, we never had these rocks in formation anywhere but here at this property where we live, until about 2 years ago when they asked to then start healing people. And we've done it. We did it at Uluru. We had about 170 people sat inside, and not one person came back to me and said nothing happened. Every person who sat inside these rocks has got a reaction. What my rocks are telling me now is it will be 10 times stronger because people need it. Now, what we're going to try and do is over the next 2 presentations, we'll be introducing people to the rocks. As I said, we've got hundreds. We'll do about 20 each time. And we'll tell them stories. We'll tell them stories of different stuff the rocks have done on different occasions. And I'm going to finish with one more before our time, and I'll watch the time to make sure we finish with one more. But right now, all they want to do is heal. And they want people to be ready for the change that's coming. Remember, these rocks were at Uluru, and they fed into the rock, and the rocks of the Uluru fed into them. So they've got that capacity within them. But what they want to do now is do more and help people. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do this presentation, then we're going to do one more with the rocks again. And at the end of that second presentation, I was thinking about when we do it, we're then going to put the rocks in formation outside where I'm sitting now, and I'll put them onto pavers, which is rocks of different type of rock, and we're going to hang a camera above them for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I still need to get the cable.
I know, he's still going to get the cable. And because we've been
wrestling with bad postage times here.
Yeah, we're in lockdown over here and it's really difficult. So we need another month to get the cable for this to be set up. But I thought about this, and I want people to fully understand the rocks before we do this. So we're going to set this up. I don't know, but we're going to lay the camera above them. And what's going to happen is I know the energy from the rocks goes upwards. I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't told me. They've agreed to it, but they haven't told me what they're going to do, if anything. I can't imagine that it'll, I don't know. Maybe it can. I'm not sure. But that's the purpose behind that. What we want to do is we want to turn on the magic of these rocks. Once they're placed into formation, they will become a portal. They'll become one of the strongest portals on this planet.
Do they also have to be on some kind of ley line energy as well, something like that? No?
Not in the case of these, because the power of these, one rock on its own is incredibly powerful and strong. I can tell you that now. You put 200 together in a sacred figure 8 formation that Kana has given me, and I know how the rocks work. They create their own sacred line. They become a song line themselves, one of the most powerful song lines there is. My intention is that I want these on the ground as soon as possible because they will become part of the healing of the planet. Now, it is a massive claim to make to say that these rocks have magic within them. And some people could say to me, it's coming from you, you're creating it, or you're putting something in there, or you're making this up. And what I want to do is I want to close with a Ram and Jerry story. And that comes from Christine Walker, doesn't it? And that's Carno Walker's wife. Now, Carno is the #1 elder in this country. This is a story that came from her. And this came from a time when we took the rocks down, and we'll talk about this further in our presentation. We took the rocks down to Adelaide, and Carno had passed on. And that was the day he turned the rocks on. Now, when I got to the airport, I was rung by elders from the middle of South Australia. I can't say the tribal group because the person has passed and we can't mention a name. And I was given a phone call. I spoke to this lady that worked at the schools there, and she'd found this rock, and it's really strong, like the rocks we've got. And she had this rock, someone else had it, and they fought over it, and she had it kept at her house, and she was concerned they were going to take it, and she wanted me to look at the rock. And I looked at the rock at the photograph. I said, this is an amazingly strong rock. And she said, well, when you get to Adelaide, they were going to drive 800 k's to come and see me, and I want to bring my uncle and my auntie, who are both elders, because we have some problems with the rock. Oh, I thought, oh, no. And I said, I asked her, I said, are you bleeding through the nose? She said, yes. I said, oh, God, we know that one, don't we?
Yeah.
That means the rock is not happy with you. I can tell you, when you're sitting near a rock and you start bleeding through the nose, you throw the rock away and you run away from it and you never look at it again. I said, okay, let's meet. Anyway, I got at the airport, and there they were. They'd driven 800 k's to come and see me, and they showed me the rock. I put it in my hand, and I knew straight away it was a men's rock, and she's a woman. There's the problem. There is the problem. It's a men's rock, and she's a woman. And I said to her, I said, no, this is a star rock. And I said, this comes from the Pleiades. And the other two elders said, we agree. They said exactly the same thing. The things I read on that rock were exactly what they had told her also. And I said, now, here's the situation. I said, this is a men's rock. It's a powerful men's rock. Women who go and see a men's ceremony and watch a sacred men's ceremony will be killed. That's the law. Men, if they go and see a women's ceremony and they watch a sacred women's ceremony, they will be killed. That is the law. That's the way it is in our society. There is men's magic, women's magic. This is men's magic, not for women. I told her that. I said, you've got it in the house. I said, it'll kill you. I said, you've got bleeding noses at the moment. I said, you'll end up dead. She said, but the other person will get it. I said, look, take it outside and bury it. Put it in the earth and it will leave you alone, which it would. Oh, I don't know. I said, look, you have to do this. Honestly, it will not end up well with you. And I had the other two elders backing me up on this. And she kept saying, but the other person will steal it. I said, bury it. Do it. Oh, she might see me. I said, do it at 12 o'clock at night. I kept coming up with ways to put this off, but she wasn't listening to me. She'd held the rock too often. She said, I have a relationship with it. Whoa. I said, yes. Have you ever heard of a love-hate relationship?
It's gone full Smeagol.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, she got Smeagol completely. And I said, for God's sake, let it go. And I had the two elders standing there beside me, joining in with me, saying, you can't keep holding this rock. Christine told me about, she went and saw her. It wasn't long after. She got incredibly sick and she saw her in hospital, and she said that was the most horrible thing I've ever seen. It was horrific how she looked. She died 3 days later. They did ceremony for her, and of course the doctors have got one prognosis about what killed her, but all of the original people know what killed her.
Wow.
It was the rock. It was the rock. So what I'm saying with these rocks is they have incredible power. Now, I will give examples of what the good rocks can do. I've got great stories about that too. But I have to give stories about what the other rocks could do so that people understand when I make the claim that they are actually magic, I've got to give proof. The technology, I can do it. I can show you stuff and say this is not part of any indigenous stick-stone bone technology. That's an easy one to do. And we have so many of them. They've been found in so many different places. That part's easy. But you know what? That's why this is called beneath the surface. You're scratching on the surface by showing us what's on the top. The message is there. The real issue is that what is underneath and inside these rocks breaks every scientific rule there is and brings back the most important capacity that humans have that made them different from any other of the, I think it's 17 hominids we've found at the moment. It's our capacity to embrace magic. And it's our capacity to work with these rocks in ways that you wouldn't even begin to understand. And this is part of the future, ladies and gentlemen, that's coming ahead through that ceremony on the 21st of December last year. And really, that's what the rocks are here for.
And guys, we're going to be running out of time in a second, but Evan, we've got the conference this weekend. How can people find out more about that? Sorry, Stephen, sorry.
Yeah, so go to the website, our alienancestry.net, and then, that's the one, and that's our current lineup for the next one. We've got Geraldine, who's a New Earth kind of lawyer, so that's going to be very interesting, and Diego is going to do some amazing stuff about UFOs and experiences in Italy and other phenomena.
Hold that thought, guys, hold that thought. The website you need is ouralienancestry.net. Ouralienancestry.net, and wherever you are, make it TFR, and then touch that dial. Now, guys, we're still going to be uploading this next part over onto YouTube. We're still on Twitch, and we're still on Odyssey right now. So take a little bit more time, Evan, to tell people about the conference. It was just I wanted the radio audience to hear that before we left.
Sure. The other thing we've got going there at the moment is if they, we've got a week's free trial, so people can sign up and have a look at the archives. So we've got the other 13 chapters in the archives. So yeah, you have a good week to have a look through and see some of the different speakers we've had. That's a special offer we've got at the moment to have a look for free.
And are we going to be having more messages from Mesreth this time?
Oh yes, we'll have messages from Mesreth again.
I like that, dude. I like it. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to do that. And we've also got an elder who is a spokeswoman of the Seven Sisters Dreaming Story, and she's allowed to give information about that story she's never given before. And she will also be talking about the fact there's a change coming ahead. So we're not going to do it that much this time because she is. So yes, we definitely will, and we'll have Mesreth. I've got some questions I want to ask, particularly after the last time, because I was outside my depth for that, I've got to tell you. So yeah, we are going to do that. And we're also I'm just going to close with this one. One last one to look at.
Whoa.
This is a 7 kilo. A 7 kilo rock. It's been cut out of granite. And on one side, you've got the women's story, which is the serpent story there, which is quite amazing. And on the back, give me strength.
Wow.
You've got the men's story, a completely different story with straight lines, and it's got a different issue again. So this particular piece of work was cut out of a slab of granite, and you can see it was cut. Now, when I'm talking about the fact that this is not technology that you know about today, there's a graphic example of 7 kilos of granite that's been cut, and this beautiful story's been created on it. Women's story on that side, and even down the bottom you'll see the big ending. There's some shellac or varnish that was on it. It covered the whole of this rock. So think about that. You've got the varnish on top. It's been cut like this. The markings on this are amazing, and you're going to try and tell me they did this around the campfire? No. Come and join us, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll show you stuff like that. We've got other rocks too that are just as amazing. And over the next 2 presentations, you'll see a lot of them.
Absolutely awesome, guys. I can't thank you both enough. Ouralienancestry.net. I'll be talking about it again tomorrow night on Freaky Friday with Scotty Lopez. definitely lots for us to talk about there. And I urge anyone out there, if you're going to attend any online conference, make it our alien ancestry. It's some of the most fascinating content that I've ever been privy to online. The guys come on here once a month. We are so blessed, not only that the guys come on here, but some of the information that they share with us, we're not going to hear anywhere else. And it's information that you need right now for all the changes that we're going through. So I can't thank both Evan and Stephen enough for the work they're doing right now, guys.
It's a pleasure, mate. Yeah. You're one of our most favourite presenters, mate. We love being with you, so it's an honour to be with you too, mate. It's a double-edged thing.
Yeah, it's definitely mutual love. And talking of love, I do love both of you guys. And I've finally seen Harry's, your friend on Bondi Rescue. I was watching a couple of episodes of that. There was a mad guy on there jumping about like the Joker. He was chasing penguins
that's
about.
Him.
And I thought to myself, that's got to be who Evan and Stephen know. And Evan said, yep, that's the fella. Yeah.
A very deep thinking man. He's a really spiritual man. Yeah. Really is.
Nice guy. Yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to let you get back to your day. Evan, I'll be in touch with you. I'll see you both, or I'll be watching you both at the conference. But we'll get you back on again next month. And for anyone listening out there, if you're watching this on the archive, share it out, because the guys are shadow banned horrendously. So anything you can do is helping this information get out there. So play your part as well. Thank you both.